Sheikh Jaffer, my brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. I don't want to take much of your time. As it is, we know, I was being told, we should be finished before Maghrib. This HSC has organized this Ziyarat, and we want to dedicate this Ziyarat to the people who have helped us in our life and have molded us. And they are of no other, everybody knows them, Ali Raza Nanji, Mullah Asghar, Habib Walji, Roshan Devji, Roshan Merali, they used to call him Chuzi, Bana Ali, Hasnan Yusuf Ali, Hussein Yusuf Ali, and a lot of other members have helped us to acquire, to get us where we are. And I would highly recommend we just do a Surah Fatiha for them and for all our marhumeens, please. Alhamdulillah and 3 Qul Huwallah. I would like to call Habib Bhai.
Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Sheikh Jaffer, my brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's indeed a great pleasure to be the MC for today and invite you to this Ziyarat seminar. The seminar will consist of 3 parts. The first will be a lecture by Sheikh Khalil Jaffer, and followed by Adil Akif, who will give you a snapshot of the walk and the details around it. And the third one will be the logistics by Inayat Bhai, again for those who are traveling with him. I thought it would be a good idea to start the seminar with a couple of hadiths from our 6th Imam, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. So I'm going to read you maybe 3 hadiths from the book Sahih Ziyarat, in which the Imam said, "The days of visitation will not be considered in the life of the visitors and will not be accounted in the appointed time of death." So you can see the benefit of what, inshallah, we will all achieve if our visitation is completed properly and is accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In another hadith, Imam Sadiq said, "Surely the visitors of Imam Hussain will have an excellence over others on the day of judgment." I asked, "And what is that excellence?" He said, that's the Imam, "They will enter paradise 40 years before others who will be busy in the reckoning and stoppages." In another hadith, Imam said, "One who visits Imam Hussain alayhi salam while he is cognizant of the Imam's rights and acknowledge him as an Imam from the side of Allah, Allah will forgive his previous and, most importantly, the hadith says, future sins." So let's think about that, okay? Last one, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, "One who visits Imam Hussain alayhi salam and seeking Allah's pleasure, Jibreel, Mikael, and Israfil will accompany him till he returns to his abode." So for all of those, including myself, when we fear going into Iraq, think about this ahadith. Inshallah, that will keep you in peace, in tranquility, so we can fulfill the ziyarat obligations with proper attention and focus. With that introduction, I would like to invite Khalil Jaffer for his lecture. With a loud Nare Salawat, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. I have a lot of information to share this afternoon, and for that reason I will get into it right away. it may feel at times as if I'm not really speaking to you or delivering a lecture, but just sharing bullet points. But that is because of the amount of information I have to share. And inshallah, I will focus mostly from a spiritual preparation perspective. And then Adil Bhai will, and Inayat Bhai will talk to us in terms of the logistics and physical preparation, and of course, what they may share in terms of spiritual preparation as well, because they have been going for ziyarah more frequently. My presentation will have 4 parts to it. The first part will be what is the purpose of ziyarah. The second is the importance or the fadila of going for ziyarah of the Aimma alayhimus salam. The third will be the adab or the etiquette of going for ziyarah, and in particular the ziyarah of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And finally, some tips on how to make this a spiritual journey. So let's begin with the purpose of ziyarah. As you just heard, the visitation to the Prophet ﷺ and the Aimma alayhimus salam is highly emphasized in hadith. And some narrations say that those who are wealthy and can afford it should visit the Imams at least twice a year. And those who are poor and cannot afford should do so at least once in a year. There are other narrations that speak of even reducing our daily expenses and finding ways to save money just to ensure that we are able to go for ziyarah, if that is the only reason why we don't go for ziyarah as frequently as we should. And this therefore raises this important question: why is there so much emphasis? Why wouldn't the Imams say that if you have visited us once, then spend the money in charity or help it for a good cause? Why do they keep saying, no, come visit us frequently, again and again, as many times as you can? The first reason is obviously to keep our connection to them, and because we need to refresh our faith, and we re-energize as we stand before their shrine and recite their ziyarah and visit them. It is similar to the ayah of mawadda in the Quran, where Allah says to His Messenger, tell the people, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. And this is a point you've heard time and again, that all the other prophets said, we don't want any reward from you. قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِنْ أَجْرِيَ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ. My reward is with Allah. It is only the final messenger who is asking for a reward. And he's saying, my reward is I want you to love my family. And the understanding here is that when he asks you to love his family, he is actually giving you something. He's not taking. Because it is of no benefit to him if you love his family. He himself loves his family, and that suffices. But he knows that if you love his family, then you hold on to one of the thaqalain, and therefore it stops you from going astray after him. In the same manner, the Imams insist that we go for ziyarah, because the purpose is not that it is of any benefit to them or that it increases their status or their remembrance, but it is for our benefit. Our faith, our salvation depends on this. And this is something that you will testify to personally if you're going for the first time. When you return, inshallah, you will feel a renewed sense of faith. Okay. The second purpose of ziyarah is to renew our bay'ah, or our pledge to our Imam. When we recite ziyarah, a lot of times we give an allegiance to the Imam, that we stand with you, that we follow you. And one of the most beautiful ziyarats to recite is Ziyaratul Jami'ah Kabira, which is taught to us from our 9th Imam, Imam Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And in there you will find a lot of lines towards this, فَمَعَكُمْ مَعَكُمْ لَا مَعَ غَيْرِكُمْ. We said to the Imams, with you and you alone, and not with anyone else except you. Right? So it is another purpose of ziyarah, that you're going to go there and we're going to, inshallah, renew our pledge and say to them that we testify that you are the rightful heirs and successors and inheritors of the Prophet's knowledge, and that the truth lies with you, and that we will only hold on to you fi dunya wal akhirah. And this you will see particularly very strongly manifested in the Haram of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, when you go to Najaf, the words of expressions that you will recite outside his Haram, you will see that this is very strongly that we testify that you are Amir al-Mu'mineen, you are the rightful successor, you are the wasi of the Prophet, and that our iman, our understanding of religion, our faith, everything comes to the Prophet through you. Okay? The last time I went, one of the beautiful things we had going is after the ziyarah, the brothers were hugging each other and the sisters were hugging each other and saying to each other, all praises to Allah who made us from the Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen and blessed us with his wilayah. And it's a beautiful, beautiful experience and feeling that inshallah I hope we will all experience. The third purpose of it is to express loyalty to them and demonstrate our love to them. In particular, in the case of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, we, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, we constantly all our lives say, if I can ask just a show of hands, how many of you are going for the first time ever to Iraq? Okay, there's a lot of you, mashallah. So all our lives we say, فَيَا لَيْتَنَا كُنَّا مَعَكُمْ فَنَفُوزَ فَوْزًا عَظِيمًا. If only we had been with you, O Aba Abdullah, we would have attained a mighty status, a mighty rank. This is an opportunity to practically demonstrate that. The fact that you will show to Imam Hussain that I will walk even 100 kilometers to come and see you. I will come crawling to you if I have to, right? And when we talk about some spiritual tips, we'll come to this again. The other purpose of ziyarah is to accelerate our spiritual growth, provided we go with the right ma'rifah, with the right understanding. And I believe that the purity, the inner purity and the knowledge that we can acquire in one trip of ziyarah, if it is done correctly, can be equivalent to years and years of trying to do the same in your hometown. Okay? But it requires some ma'rifah of the Imam and some preparation on our part, and we will talk about some of this as well. In essence, we are going for ziyarah to receive some gifts from the Imam that we're going to bring back with us. For some, these gifts will be physical only, and for some it can be both physical and spiritual. Okay? It will depend on our intention, what we're going for, and what is it that we expect and what we want. If we're only going to get wealth and health and happiness and children, inshallah we'll get all of that. But we can ask for more, because there is no limit. They are the doors to Allah whose treasures are unlimited. And therefore, how much you can take from there is only limited by your sincerity, your imagination, and your desire. If you are willing to demand more, you will get more and you will bring back more, inshallah. One point that I will emphasize again and again is that there are two ways to do ziyarah. One is with the mind and with the focus on the physical preparation. And the other is with the heart and with the spiritual preparation. So it can be a mind-body experience or it can be a heart-spirit experience. And we are striving for the later, inshallah. If you think about the times when the Aimma alayhimus salam were present and people would go visit them in Medina or wherever they lived, there were two kinds of people who went to see the Imams. There were some who used to go to the Imams only for physical problems. They used to go and complain about their debts, about their poverty, about their illness, and the Imams would help them, which is proof that it is not wrong to ask for this. But there were those who would go just out of love, to say, I have just come to see you out of my love for you. And they took a lot more back. They took knowledge, they took spiritual purity, and they took some sort of an assurance from the Imam that you are with us in this world and in the hereafter, inshallah. Because when it came to physical help, the Imams did not discriminate. They helped everyone, whether he was Shia, not Shia, Muslim, not Muslim. If you came to the door, you didn't return empty-handed. And that's true even today. But when it came to spiritual, it was only those who knew who they were and asked in according to that, that received that spiritual blessing. The other thing we will be looking at is the etiquette of going for ziyarah. And when we look at this etiquette or adab, one of the things you will notice is that all the things that we're told to do in terms of etiquette, they all seem to be suggesting that this is a spiritual journey, and they're all focusing on purifying ourselves and preparing ourselves for the time when we actually meet the Imam. Okay? The fifth reason we go for ziyarah, or the purpose of ziyarah, is for their intercession or their shafa'ah. We generally, in dua, we say, "Oh Allah, bless us with their ziyarah fil dunya and their shafa'ah fil akhirah." Give us the opportunity to visit them in this world and their intercession in thereafter. But actually, there is both in this world and both in the hereafter. Because in the hereafter, when you go for their intercession, you will also be visiting them, isn't it? And in fact, the Imams tell us the opposite. They say, if you come visit us in this world, we will come and visit you in the hereafter. Right? There are lots of such hadith. For example, Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, because he is buried so far away from the Arab lands and he is gharib al-ghuraba, he has traditions that says, if anyone comes all the way to Mashhad to visit me, I will visit him at a time when no one will be able to help him. I will visit him when he's crossing the bridge on the Day of Judgment. I will visit him when his deeds are being weighed on the scale, and so on. And this is true for other Imams as well. So there is shafa'ah and ziyarah in the hereafter. And in this world as well, besides the ziyarah, we also want their shafa'ah, their intercession. Like for example, when we have a need or a haja, and we pray to Allah, and as we do in dua tawassul, we say to the Imam to intercede for us on our behalf before Allah. So the other purpose of the ziyarah is to gain their shafa'ah as well. And then finally, of course, the purpose of the ziyarah is the thawab as well, that we shouldn't neglect or trivialize. There is tremendous reward. We shall mention some of it, and that is also a great reason why we should be undertaking this journey. So that was the first part, what is the purpose of ziyarah. We come to the second part, which is the excellence or the importance or the fadila of going for the ziyarah of the Aimma alayhimus salam. Even though we speak mostly in terms of visiting Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, there is actually the fadila of each one of the Imams in Iraq. And in the interest of time, I will not actually go into details of all the Imams. I will just share some of the excellences for visiting Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam and Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, and just make a few comments on the other Imams, and then inshallah we will have more opportunities to talk about this in Iraq. In terms of the ziyarah of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, obviously he is, the door to the knowledge of the Prophet. He is the first, the Abul A'immah, through whom we identify ourselves as Shia. We have one hadith that say that every single day, the hadith says Allah has not created any creation in such abundance as He has created angels. The malaika are created in such large numbers we cannot even begin to fathom or understand. And every single day, 70,000 angels set out from the heavens for ziyarah. They first do tawaf of Bayt al-Ma'mur in the heavens, and then they come down to Mecca and they do tawaf of the Kaaba. Then they go to Medina and they visit the Prophet ﷺ and they do salam to him. And then they go to Najaf and do salam to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and then they go to Karbala and do salam to Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. And these are angels who are blessed with this opportunity only once in their existence. After that they go back, they do not get a chance to come again, because the next day another 70,000 come down. So one of the things we will also be trying to remind ourselves is that when we go to these places, we need to be cognizant of the fact that while we're in that haram, there is a constant flow of angels coming in and out. And even when we recite that permission to enter, we ask permission as well from the angels who are charged with looking after or taking care of that particular sacred place. Another hadith says that whoever visits Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam عارفا بحقه, with realization and understanding of what his right is, including his right as being the rightful Imam and the rightful successor to the Prophet ﷺ, and he comes to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam with humility, without pride, without arrogance, then he has the reward of 100,000 martyrs or shuhada. All his sins are forgiven. He will be raised, or she will be raised on the Day of Judgment with aman, with security, and his or her accounting will be made easy, and they will be escorted with angels back to their homes. And if they fall sick on the way home, the angels will visit them, and if they die, the angels will ask forgiveness for them and accompany them to their grave. If anyone walks to the ziyarah of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, for every step he takes, he has the reward of one hajj that is accepted and one umrah that is blessed and accepted. And if he walks back, he has the reward of 2 hajj and 2 umrah for every step he or she takes. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, the fire of hell will never touch the feet of one who has gone for the ziyarah of Amir al-Mu'mineen, regardless of whether he walked or went on a mount. So there is tremendous, ahadith, and sometimes we take these lightly. 100,000 shuhada, hajj, umrah, 100 umrah, 100,000. But these will show themselves on the Day of Judgment, my dear brothers and sisters. When you look at your book of deeds, and you've only gone for hajj once or umrah 2-3 times, but you see your book and it has like 10,000 hajj, 10,000 umrah, that will be precious commodity to us. Provided we understand his right and we go and accept that. And a lot of this reward also is given to those who know its value. Okay? There is a saying that the Arabs have that says, I don't know if it's hadith or it's just a saying, it says, Ma'u zamzam lima shuriba lahu. The water of Zamzam does for the intention with which it is drunk. Its effect is based on the intention with which you drink. In other words, if you drink Zamzam only with the intention to quench your thirst, then all it does is it quenches your thirst. But if you drink Zamzam with the intention that it has healing power and it can give you shifa, then not only will it quench your thirst, but it will give you shifa. So the water of Zamzam's effect is dependent on your intention as well. And the same for ziyarah. When we go to Najaf, there are many other places that we should visit, and inshallah all the groups will be visiting Masjid al-Sahla, Masjid Kufa, Wadi al-Salam, and around the shrine of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, there are some important personalities who are buried that inshallah we'll have a chance to see as well. Some old, some more recent, Muqaddas Ardbeli, Allama Hilli, Marhum Ayatollah Sayyid Mohsin al-Hakim, Sayyid al-Khui. They're all in that haram, and inshallah we will have guides and individuals. Sheikh At-Tusi, who played an important role in the establishment of the Hawza in Najaf, and so on. Now, moving on, in the interest of time, I just want to move on to the fadila, or the excellence of visiting Imam Hussain alayhi salam, his ziyarah. His ziyarah, one thing that all the experts and the muhaddithun write is that its reward is beyond description. It cannot be described in words. Shaykh Abbas Qumi in his Mafatihul Jinan, he says, Mimma la yablughuhul bayan. It is above anyone's, you cannot express what is the reward of going for the ziyarah of Hussein. But he then makes an attempt. He says, just to make an attempt, what is the reward? It will remove sorrow and grief in your life. Partly, I believe, because his sorrow and grief is so much, it will overwhelm you. Your sorrow and grief will appear trivial. But it also removes it. In its reward, it is better than Hajj and Umrah and Jihad. It brings forgiveness of sins. It is a means through which you will gain protection from the horrors of the grave and sakaratul maut, which is the pangs at the time of dying. It lengthens one's life. It increases one's sustenance. Every dirham, or in our case, every dollar that you have spent for the ziyarah of Hussein will be recorded in equivalent of thousands as given in charity. So for every dollar you spent in your record of deeds, it will count that you gave thousands of dollars in charity. Okay? When one sets out from his home to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, 4,000 angels march before him when he sets out, and they march with him when he comes back. The prophets and the angels and the imams visit al-Hussein and pray for his zawar at the haram of Imam Hussain. There are certain special days that are makhsus, highly recommended to visit Imam al-Hussein, and for that it has its own fadila. Like for example, to visit him on the day of Arafah. There is a tradition that says that Allah looks at the zawar of Hussein on the day of Arafah before he looks at the Hujjaj in Arafat. Okay. On Yawm al-Qiyamah, on the Day of Judgment, those who never went for the ziyarah of al-Hussein, when they see the status and the rank of the zawar of Hussein, they will envy them. And they will wish and desire that if only they could go back to this world and have an opportunity to go for the ziyarat of Hussein. And there are some traditions that are even more stern that says one's faith is incomplete and there is something lacking in one's faith if one leaves this world without having gone to see Al-Hussein at least once. It is not wajib, but it is extremely highly recommended. Shaykh Al-Qulayni and Sayyid ibn Tawus relate that one of the companions of Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam once went to visit the Imam, and the Imam was finishing his prayer. He was praying his salat, and he says when he finished his salat, the Imam raised his hands and he was just reciting dua, and it was a lengthy dua. But as part of his dua after his salat, one of the things the Imam specifically used to pray is, "Oh Allah, I ask you to forgive the sins of the zawar of Hussein." So this is a dua of Imam As-Sadiq after salat. He used to pray for the maghfirah of the zawar of Hussein. There is another hadith that says that if a za'ir of Hussein sweats because of having to go for ziyarah, for every drop of sweat that falls from him, Allah creates 70,000 angels who glorify Allah and seek forgiveness for the zawar of Hussein ila yawm al-qiyamah. And as we said, the ahadith are so many that it is impossible to narrate all of them. But the important thing that we see in many of these ahadith is عارف بحقه. من زار الحسين عارفا بحقه وجبت له الجنة. Whoever visits Hussein knowing his right, Jannat becomes wajib on him. So this عارف بحقه is very important, and we shall talk about it shortly. That in what ways will our actions show whether we have tried to go with some ma'rifah or whether we have gone in a state of heedlessness just to perform a ritual. Then there are the fada'il of visiting the different imams, and a lot of them are very similar to the fadila of visiting Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam and Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Thank you, Bashir. Thank you. Many of them are very similar to the fadila of visiting Imam Ali alayhi salam and Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, the angels escorting them, the thawab, the hajj, the umrah. What I think we will try and do is, because I believe a lot of us nowadays have these guidebooks that tell us about the different things you can see in different places and essentials, the ziyarat and du'as. But one of the things that is important to do is that when you go to these places, before you recite the ziyarah, to put yourself in the right state of mind and spirit, so that when you recite the ziyarah, we recite it with the right feelings of love, of maybe some tears in our eyes and so on. So I don't know how things are. I haven't been there in the last 5 years, but if time permits, this is now I'm speaking more about the mu'mineen that will be with us. What we will try and do is when we go to Kadhmain and Samarra, once we are in the haram, we will try and maybe gather near the darih of Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam and maybe share some of his miracles and some of his virtues, just to bring that right feeling and state of mind, and then recite his ziyarah. and then we could go to the Darih of Imam al-Jawad and again talk a little bit about him, his personality, some of his miracles, his contribution, his love for his Shia, and then recite Ziyarah so that we have some understanding of the Imams. And the same for Samarra. But again, it'll depend on the crowd, it'll depend on security situation. We will try and do, otherwise we may have to do this at the hotel and then go to the Haram. But there is a lot of reward, a lot of incidents with these Imams. Try and read up on them. For example, Sheikh Abbas Qumi mentions, I'll just mention one and then move on to the next subject, which is the adab of Ziyarah. He mentions one thing about Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam, that he is Babul Hawa'ij. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam in Karbala and Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam, these two are known as Babul Hawa'ij, meaning the gates at which your wishes are fulfilled. These are the two best places to ask for your wishes. Another place where your wishes are, highly likely to be guaranteed is under the dome of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, under the Qubba. When you go into the Haram of Imam Hussain, you will see the dome above his shrine, his darih. If you can get as close as possible under that Qubba and then pray there for your wishes, it is highly mustajab, inshaAllah. But Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. There was, and he narrates this from two. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. People were being imprisoned and arrested for, all kinds of reasons. And a woman was seen running towards the shrine of Imam al-Kadhim. And there was a man, a Nasibi, a person who disliked the Ahlul Bayt. He stopped the woman and said, where are you going? And she was crying and she said, my son has been imprisoned by the ruler or the king or whoever was there, the governor. And I'm going to this Imam to ask for my son to be released. So this Nasibi began laughing at her and mocking her. He said, what kind of nonsense is this? This Imam himself died in prison. Your son is imprisoned. He died in prison. If he couldn't free his own self, how is he going to free your son? You see the logic. The woman, Sheikh Abbas Qumi says, went to the Haram. She was obviously enraged that he would mock her Imam in this manner. She went to the Darih of Imam al-Kadhim and she prayed to Allah. She said to Allah, Allahumma bihaqqi maqtulun fi sajn, arini qudratak. Oh Allah, I ask you for the sake of the one who was poisoned in the prison, show me your power. I ask you for the sake of the one who was poisoned and killed in a prison, because that man argued he was imprisoned himself. For the one who died in a prison, show me your power. That same day, Sheikh Abbas Qumi says, not only was her son freed, but that Nasibi's son was imprisoned. So there are numerous incidents like this that show us the karamat, the mu'jizat, the power, that when we go to these places, we go with awe, we go with esteem, and we realize that these are those because of whom Allah created everything. As we say in Hadith Qisa, right? Allah Himself says, إِنِّي مَا خَلَقْتُ سَمَاءً مَبْنِيًّا وَلَا أَرْضًا مَدْحِيًّا وَلَا شَمْسًا مُنِيرًا وَلَا قَمْرًا, all that. So everything that exists primarily existed because of Allah's love for these perfect beings. And it is our honor, we're not worthy of it, but it is our honor that we can go visit them as their Shia and pledge allegiance to them and visit them. In Kadhmain as well, there are many places that are important and worth visiting. The four ambassadors or Nawab of Imam Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman, Ajalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif, Allahumma salli ala. They are buried nearby there in Baghdad and Kadhmain. I'm not sure if their visiting their graves is even possible or it's done. There is Madain, where several prophets are buried, where several companions of the Prophet, Salman, Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari, and so on, are buried there. But inshallah, there are some scholars as well that are buried there. I think Sheikh al-Kulaini is as well in Kadhmain or Baghdad. So inshallah we will see. There is a mosque as well. Sheikh Abbas Kumi mentions Masjid Bartha. I'm not even sure, I don't remember visiting this the last time I went, but Masjid Bartha apparently is a mosque that has of very high fadila. In some riwayat, it is the place where Maryam alayhi salam gave birth to Nabi Isa alayhi salam, and it is where Allah created a river to run miraculously for her. And there are several miracles of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam that are attributed to that place as well. So if it is possible, inshallah, we will try and identify these places and visit them. Now we come to the third part, which is very important, and that is the etiquette or the adab of ziyarah. I'm going to break this down into three parts. First, there is the adab of going on a journey, setting out on a journey. And then there is the adab that is specific when you go for the ziyarah of the Aimma alayhimus salam. And then there are some specifics that is particular for the ziyarah of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, the etiquette. And you will find a lot of these as well in Mafatih al-Jinan and other books as well. Before we again go into this adab, I want to remind myself as well and all of us here that there are two kinds of people who go for ziyarah. There is one person who goes to visit the grave of the Imam. And there is a second person who goes to visit the Imam. These two are very different, very different. Our entire experience will differ depending on our attitude. So this is the first thing we need to switch in our minds. We're not going to visit the graves of the Imams, we're going to visit the Imams. And the preparation for each is different, and again we shall see from the adab that it seems as if we're going to visit the Imam and not the grave of the Imam. And I will list these adab, but keep in mind that what we are aiming to do as well, which is one of the purpose of ziyarah as well, is that we are trying to walk in the footsteps of that Imam for a short while. For a short while, for a week or two, we're going to try and live the kind of life that the Imam lived or wanted us to live. And we're going to try and imitate them in some ways. What I mean by this is, if you look at the ziyarah of Imam al-Rida alayhi salam, for example, when you go to Mashhad, you're told that before you go to the Imam in Mashhad, you should perform ghusl, you should put on clean clothes, preferably white clothes, and you should walk bare feet. And as you walk to Imam al-Rida, you should be doing takbir, and occasionally you should be looking at the heavens and saying Allahu Akbar. And you should walk with tranquility, you should walk with composure, with waqar and with sakina, and so on. Now, this adab is directly related to an incident in which the Caliph Ma'mun tried to force Imam al-Rida alayhi salam to lead Salatul Eid, and the Imam did not wish to do that. And the Imam put on white clothes, and he went bare feet, and as he walked to the Musalla, he was doing takbir and looking at the heavens, and he walked with composure. And the hadith says that as he did that, it seemed as if the whole of Maru was shaking. And as he walked through the alleys, the walls seemed to be replying and doing takbir with him. And it created such a commotion that Ma'mun sent messengers to tell the Imam, we have troubled you and you can go back, because he was afraid it would overthrow his kingdom. So you can see a very clear example that the manner in which we are told to go to the Imam is imitating and mirroring his manner of going out of his home. Now, based on this, we are told, for example, as we shall see from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, that when you come to the grave of al-Hussein alayhi salam, when you come to Imam al-Hussein, come to him with sorrow, while you're heartbroken, while you're hungry, while you're thirsty, while there's dust on your head, while there's tears in your eyes. Why? Because he says when Hussein died, he was heartbroken, he was sad, he was hungry, he was thirsty, his hair was disheveled, he had tears in his eyes. And this is what I mean by saying that when you perform the ziyarah, you are imitating that Imam for a short period of time. You're trying to almost experience within your limitation how it is to walk in his footsteps. Okay. The adab of traveling in general. There are many things that are given in recommendations, but they only apply to people who are traveling by road and who have the choice of when they can travel. So there's recommendations of what days of the week to set out on and what times to set out on and things like that, which we cannot because we are obviously flying. But some of the things that are given commonly, generally when you're traveling on any journey, is to perform ghusl, to give out some charity or sadaqah, to fast for 2 or 3 days before you travel, to pray 2 rakats before you leave your home for safety, to gather your family together, those you are leaving behind, and there are some du'as you recite to Allah for your safety and the safety of those you are leaving behind. And this you will find in books of du'a. Okay. Now, when it comes to the adab or the etiquette of going for the ziyarah of the A'imma alayhimus salam, now this is for all Imams, and the Prophet included, and from Imam Ali to the 11th Imam. The adab that are given to us is one, that you perform ghusl before you leave, before you set out on your journey. Number 2, that you try and settle any debts you have. Okay, this is unfortunately something that I hear of time and again. I hear of people who will borrow money from others, large sums of money, conveniently forget to pay it back, ignore the other person is suffering, waiting to be paid back, and then he, mashallah, is going for ziyarat trips, and he is going for hajj, and he is going for umrah, and that fellow is waiting for his money, right? Or somebody who has the ability to work, he's healthy, he can earn a living, but because he's lazy, he'll go beg money from here, beg money from there, take money from there, loan from there, and then he's off to ziyarah, and he's off for umrah, and this sort of behavior does not please our Imams. It is actually self-defeating. So at the very least, if we cannot pay our debts, we need to approach the people that we owe money and tell them, I'm going for ziyarah, I've had an opportunity to go, I have not forgotten, I have to pay you back, and inshallah when I come back I will make every effort to pay you back. Okay? But do not go, and the same for people that we may have had ill feelings with. If we've had, God forbid, any fights with family members, people who may have, we may have hurt their feelings, find an opportunity to call them, email them, speak to them, and ask them to forgive you. It is important. Number 3, important for adab of ziyarah is that during ziyarah to avoid useless speech, vain talk, excessive laughter, joking, fighting, arguing, anything that is against the akhlaq of a Shia or a mu'min should not be displayed, in particular during ziyarah. Number 4 is ghusl before ziyarah. So besides the ghusl you do when you leave home, when you get to that place, before you go to the shrine, it is mustahab again to do ghusl. So if you're in Najaf, you do ghusl before you go to the haram of Amir al-Mu'mineen. If you're in Karbala, you do ghusl before you go to haram of Imam Hussain, and so on. Number 5, tahara at all times. During this trip, try and stay in wudu all the time. So when you go to the washroom, you come out of the washroom, do wudu again. When you sleep, you wake up, after you've gone to the washroom, perform wudu. Whenever your wudu breaks, renew your wudu again. So you stay in the state of tahara at all times. Number 6 is to wear clean clothes. And again, for the other Imams, besides Imam Hussain, in particular to wear clothes that are new and that are white in color. Number 7, when you set out for the Rawdah, for the actual haram, that you take short steps. You don't run or walk hastily. You walk slowly, with tranquility, with dignity, with humility, and with awe. You lower your head, not looking distracted to all sides, but with a sense of reflection of who it is you are approaching. Number 8, it is mustahab to apply perfume when you go for ziyarah, except for the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussain. So this is again an important point, because a lot of people will wash their black clothes and all before they go to Karbala. Remember not to put perfume again on your black clothes after you have done your laundry, because most of us are going first to Karbala, right? maybe a stopover in Najaf for a day or so. After you finish Karbala, when you come back and you're going to Najaf and Kadhmain and Samara, then you can obviously apply the perfume, and it is mustahab then. Number 9, during the time in ziyarah, keep your tongue constantly occupied with takbir and tamheed and tasbih. So Allahu Akbar, Alhamdulillah, Subhanallah, glorifying Allah, praising Allah, istighfar, salawat, constantly should be on our tongues. Number 10 is to ask permission before entering the actual haram, and to ask with humility, and to reflect on how great the personality is in whose presence you're about to enter. And we actually say this in that, idhan ad-dukhul, that dua that we recite when we are entering. We say to Allah that I testify that this Imam whose permission I'm asking, he can see where I'm standing and he can hear what I'm saying. That they can hear, يَسْمَعُونَ كَلَامِ, right? وَيَرَوْنَ مَقَامِ. They see where I'm standing, they can hear it, but it is my deficiency that I am not able to hear back their reply and I'm not able to see them. Okay. Some ahadith say that when you recite this permission to enter, if even one tear falls from your eye, that is a sign that you have been granted permission to enter. Okay, so again, this is something that we, inshallah, strive for. It is also recommended to try and reflect on how much the personality you're visiting, how much they love their Shia and those who visit them. And so this is something we said we'll try and do when we're there, talk a little bit about that Imam before we enter the shrine and his presence. It is also of the adab that when you enter with the right foot. When you first enter, the first thing you do is you thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allowed you to come to such a place and blessed you with the opportunity to come to this place. The first time you see the rawda, the actual grave, the shrine of the Imam, that you do takbir of Allah and you say Allahu Akbar. It is also recommended that you stand when you recite the ziyarah, unless one has a problem or illness with one's leg and one is tired and one cannot. So this is, in our culture, though mostly we stand for ziyarah even here, but in some cultures, like in many Arab cultures, when they recite ziyarah, normally they sit and recite ziyarat warith and so on. So here, we are told that when you go to the haram, it is recommended to be standing when you recite the ziyarah. It is also important, as I mentioned earlier, part of the adab, that you don't hurt anyone's feelings. Here, you don't leave behind someone whose feelings you have hurt. And there also, we need to take utmost care during the trip that we don't, accidentally hurt someone's feelings. We have one incident again here that we're told. There was a Shia of Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam called Ali bin Yaqteen, and he was also a vizier of Harun al-Rashid. So he was in taqiyya, but he used to help the Shias because of his position in government. And one day, another Shia called Ibrahim al-Jammal went to see him, but Ali bin Yaqteen, because of his status and position and whatever occupation, he was preoccupied maybe, he refused to see Ibrahim. And then he went to see Imam al-Kadhim, Ali bin Yaqteen, and the Imam refused to see him. And the Imam sent a message to him and said, I refuse to see you because you refuse to see my Shia. And Ali bin Yaqteen had to go and apologize to Ibrahim al-Jamal before the Imam allowed to see him. Ali bin Yaqteen was very close to the Imam. But the Imam is showing us that if you hurt my Shia, you have hurt me. Absolutely. And we will see another example shortly. You will see another thing as well happening in the haram is that people don't turn their backs to the Imam. Now this I haven't found in the books, but I think it is a good practice as well, because it signifies your understanding that the Imam is alive, is present, and is watching you. So you will see that after people recite the ziyarah in the rawda, they don't turn their backs and walk out, they walk backwards. They walk backwards until they come to the door, they do salam again, and then they turn sideways and walk out. At no point do they stand with their backs turned to the Imam. Okay? These are all little things, but they reflect our awareness of where we are and in whose presence we are. Sheikh Abbas Qumi says when you recite the ziyarat, recite those ziyarats that are highly recommended and well known and from the Imams. This was a problem in his time as well. he said there are some ignorant people who have composed their own ziyarats, and he says don't go reciting anything that every fool and ignorant person has written and telling you to recite. Okay. Another part of the adab is after the ziyarat, at a minimum, that you recite 2 rakats of ziyarah. Part of the adab as well, when you're in a haram of any imam, is not to raise your voice. Because Allah says in the Quran about the Prophet, لا ترفعوا أصواتكم فوق صوت النبي. Don't raise your voice above the voice of the Prophet. So not to shout and raise your voice in the haram. Another part of the adab is to constantly do istighfar as well when you're in the haram. Another part of the adab is to recite Quran in the haram, and there are some specific surahs of Quran that are mentioned as well, like Surah Yasin. And so this we will, inshallah, you will see it in the books and we will talk about it there as well. It is also recommended as part of the adab that when you are there to give some money in charity or sadaqah, and even to give for the upkeep of that shrine and mosque. If you have trust that where you're giving it will be put to good use, that you give some money, you can put it in the haram, in the darih, or if there's an office where you get a receipt. These are all part of the adab and recommendations. Another part of the adab is that you be considerate of others. This is specifically mentioned in the books. There will be a lot of pushing and shoving, but stay alert of whose presence you're in. Don't push, Shaykh Abbas Qumi says, and he also says that a lot of people, when they get to the darih, once they hold on to it, they don't leave it, because that is how they perhaps see they're expressing love. And I understand this is particularly a problem with the ladies. I haven't witnessed it, but I've heard this time and again that in Mashhad in particular, when you have children, when you have all ladies on wheelchair, it's easier to take them through the men's sometimes, because in the ladies they're just strangling each other. And it's easier to strangle someone if they're wearing a scarf, by the way, because you can just pull the knot, A lot of ladies will say, now I'm going for jihad, and they'll tie that knot behind, and then the other lady behind just ties it tighter, and So, no jihad in the darih, please. Shaykh Abbas Qumi says, be considerate. What is it that the imam would love, right? You can say to the imam, the way I feel right now, I wish I could hold on to your darih and stay here until my legs give away, or until my soul leaves my body. But there are others waiting to pay their respects. Because you don't know, the person behind you might have a need that at that time is greater than yours. There is somebody behind you who's got cancer. There's somebody behind you whose child is sick. There's somebody behind you who's got a debt. There's somebody who's dying to just touch. He's spent his life saving money, and he's not going to get a chance to touch because you don't want to let go, right? So try and touch it for sure, but be considerate of others. So this is general adab for all the imams. Now, I know I'm running out of time, but adab specific to Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. Okay? The first thing is, it is highly recommended to fast for 3 days before you leave. So the last 3 days before you leave, it is mustahab to fast, particularly when you're going for Ziyarat of Imam Hussain. The second thing is that you do ghusl on the 3rd day before you leave, either the last day of your fast, or if you're leaving the day after the 3 days, then before, if you're not setting out early morning, you could do ghusl before you head out of your home. These are both given from Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam. The third is that you again gather your family and those you're leaving behind, and you recite a dua for your safety and for their safety, which you will find again in Mafatih al-Jinan. It is also recommended when you're going for Ziyarat of Imam Hussain that when you leave your home, you frequently recite La ilaha illallah, Wallahu Akbar, Walillahi alhamd, which is again the takbir and tahleel and tamheed. To glorify Allah frequently, to recite salawat on Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, and even when you are in Karbala, to recite as much of the salawat as you can is highly recommended. As I mentioned earlier, Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam says, when you visit Al-Hussein, make sure when you come to him, you are sad, you are afflicted, your hair is disheveled, you are covered in dust, you are hungry, you are thirsty. Why? فَإِنَّ الْحُسَيْنِ قُتِلَ حَزِينًا مَكْرُوبًا شَاءَةً مُغْبِرًا جَاعِيًا عَطْشَانًا. Because Hussein was killed when he was covered with sorrow, afflicted, his hair disheveled, covered in dust, hungry and thirsty. And then when you come to Hussein like that, he says, then ask for your hajat. The other recommendation from Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam is, once you have visited Hussein, don't linger. don't stay there endlessly. Unless you live in Karbala, right? You stay for a little while and then just don't idle there just for the sake of. Go back to your homes. And this is perhaps because he doesn't want us to become desensitized or he doesn't want us to lose that sense of sacredness of the place. It is our limitation that we can't hold that every time you go to Karbala, it must be something momentous, something magnificent. Okay? The other recommendation from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam is that when you go to Karbala, do not take with you the means of luxury and enjoyment. He says, Imam al-Sadiq says, I have heard there are some people who come here and they bring with them animals, and then they have a feast, and they have roast meat, and they have halawa, and so on and so forth. And yet these very same people, the Imam says, if they were going to the graves of their own fathers, they would go crying and with sadness and with grief. But they come to my grandfather in this manner. And he says, take milk and bread with you instead. Now, here, of course, we need to understand the context. Because obviously when you're going with a group, I've heard there are some groups that impose this on their people, that we're only going to eat vegetarian. I don't think it is for the groups to impose this on the people. I think it is for the person himself to decide. You might decide, I need the protein, or I'm eating some meat, but I'm not eating it out of, a sense of feasting. What the Imam is discouraging is that we go there with this attitude that we're going to have, just buffets and enjoy ourselves. That sense of wanting to enjoy yourself in Karbala should not be there. There is one hadith in which Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says to his companion Mufaddal bin Umar, he says, تَزُورُونَ خَيْرًا مِنْ أَنْ لَا تَزُورُونَ وَلَا تَزُورُونَ خَيْرًا مِنْ أَنْ تَزُورُوا. Sometimes your coming to visit us is better than you're not visiting us. But sometimes if you don't come and visit us, it is better than if you come and visit us. And the Mufaddal says, he was so disturbed, he said, you have broken my back, Ibn Rasulullah. What is this you're saying? That sometimes it is better for us not to visit you? And the Imam said, yes, when you come to us with the wrong attitude, with the wrong approach. He says, by Allah, if you come to Hussein, then come to him broken-hearted and with sorrow. No, he says, no. Come to him with your hair disheveled and covered in dust. Come to him sha'athan ghubran. Otherwise, don't come to Hussein. Meaning, don't come to him, with arrogance, with pride, with enjoyment, with, for fun, as a ritual. Come to him truly, sincerely, humility, with a state of grief and sorrow. The other important thing in the adab of Imam al-Hussein is to be of service of the zawar of Hussein, especially when they are walking. This is there as well in our books, that try and help the zawar when they are walking to Imam al-Hussein. So in other words, we need to ask ourselves, do we only want to go there as visitors and guests of Imam Hussein, or do we want to go there as servants and maids of Imam Hussein? So you are walking from Najaf to Karbala, but during that walk, don't just go with the thought, there's so many people there to serve us, to massage our feet, to give us food, to give us a place to sleep. What are you going to do for a Zair? Maybe you can stop somewhere and help for 10-15 minutes and give water to some of the people walking. Maybe you're buying a pair of gloves for yourself, buy an extra pair. You'll see somebody there, a stranger, but nonetheless a lover of Hussein. Give him a pair of gloves. Whatever it is, find a way to serve the Zair of Hussein. Sheikh Qulaini says that Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam was once sitting with some of his companions, and he said to his companions, why is it that you ignore us? And a man from Khurasan stood up and said, we seek refuge with Allah that we should ever ignore you or any of your affairs, Ya ibn Rasulillah. The Imam said to him, indeed, you are actually one of those who have ignored us and humiliated us. The man said, A'udhu billahi an akuna kadhalik. I seek refuge with Allah that I should be such a person, that I should have ignored you. The Imam said, woe be unto you. Did you not hear a man calling out to you when you were near Juhfa? And he cried out to you and said, carry me for a mile, for by Allah I am tired of walking. But you did not even raise your head to look at him, and you ignored him. One who ignores a mu'min has ignored us. This is Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. So this is again the same point we said earlier. If you hurt the feelings of a Shia, if you ignore a Shia, you have ignored the Imam. The other part of the adab of Ziyarat of Imam Hussain is to do ghusl and wudu with the water of Furat. Now this might not be practical, particularly the ghusl, but the wudu, I think when you go for atraf ziyarat, when you go outside the haram, the group will take you to see different places, the garden of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, where he used to stay when he would go to Karbala, the maqam of Imam Sahib al-Zaman and so on, the maqam of Ali al-Akbar, Ali al-Asghar and so on. You will see the river Furat, and you will have an opportunity to do wudu. It is highly recommended, and there's a lot of thawab to do wudu in Furat and then go do ziyarah of Imam al-Hussain. Another part of the adab and recommendation is to pray as many of your obligatory and nawafil prayers in the haram of Imam Hussain. So when you're in Karbala, wherever and whenever you can, do not say your prayers in the hotel room, but go to the haram and say it there, both the wajib, and try and pray as many of the nawafil and mustahab prayers as well. Shaykh Abbas Qumi says the most important a'mal in the haram of Imam Hussain is dua, especially under the dome of Imam Hussain, under the qubba, where du'as are highly accepted. So there, please remember to pray for others as well. For all of us, inshallah, pray. Those whom you have promised to remember in your prayers, maybe write their names down so you don't forget. And that is really the best place you can pray for them. There are specifics of the ziyarat then, in the adab, how to actually enter the haram, where to stand, what to say, and then do what, and then kiss the darih, and then say what. That we will inshallah brief and explain when we are there. And there is also some need to understand how Imam Hussein's haram is arranged. Those who are going for the first time, where the rest of the shuhada are buried, where Ali al-Akbar and Ali al-Asghar and Imam al-Hussain is buried, where Habib is buried, where Ibrahim al-Mujab is buried. So somebody will be with you who will guide you and tell you, make you familiar with the place at least the first time. And as I said, we need to be aware that there are tens of thousands of angels constantly coming and going into the haram of Imam Hussain. Karbala is a piece of Jannah, even in the hereafter. So keep this in mind, that you are in the presence of angels, you are in the presence of the prophets of God, particularly during the Arba'een, that you are not alone, that others are there, they're watching us, they're praying for us, and inshallah we need to make them proud of us. Now, my time is up, but I haven't actually talked about the most important part, which was tips on how to make this a spiritual journey. Is Brother Inayat here? I'm okay? Okay. No, we don't want to cut Brother Adil. I think his part is important. Maybe we'll cut your question answers and then people can ask you afterwards. Because they call you anyway and they email you anyway. So after 9, don't call Brother Inayat. Okay. So very quickly, I have compiled a list of tips on how to make this a spiritual journey, but these are just my personal tips. They're not from books of hadith, they're not, okay? And as I said, I am myself, alhamdulillah, being blessed after 5 years, so others may have better tips. So whatever doesn't make sense to you, leave it. Some of it, yes, is from the adab. Number 1, to make this trip more spiritual, I recommend you consider fasting the last 3 days before you leave, because that was one of the adab. But fasting itself helps us to be more spiritual, like we witnessed in the month of Ramadan. And now the days are short anyway, so we have that advantage as well. So please, if you can, fast for 3 days before you leave. Number 2, during the entire ziyarat trip, and especially when you're in Karbala and Najaf, consider praying Salatul Layl every night. So even if we are not able to do that here, learn how to pray Namaz al-Shab or Salatul Layl. And during this trip, during the whole ziyarat trip, try and do this and pray every night, inshallah, or as many nights as we can when we are there. Number 3, try and form a routine when you're there to recite the Quran a lot and to do dhikr of Allah a lot, and set some goals for yourself. For example, you might set a goal for yourself to say that when I'm going to walk from Najaf to Karbala, I'm going to recite the salawat 10,000 times, for example. Okay? Or you might decide that during my entire stay in Iraq, I'm going to recite the entire Quran. And there are many such things that you can recite even during the walk. When you're walking, you can constantly address Imam Hussain and say, Ya laytani kuntu ma'akum, if only I were with you, fa'afuza fawzan azima, and the tasbihat al-arba and so on. Number 4, get to know the imams you are visiting. attain some realization and ma'rifah. Try and understand who you're visiting and what their personality is, please. This is important because our thawab is directly tied to how we understand the Imams. I'm giving you a very quick example. In Al-Kafi, there is an incident about a man who used to worship Allah morning and night. And Jibreel, I think, or one of the angels said to Allah, this person on the Day of Judgment, his deeds must be so heavy. And Allah showed the angel his deeds, and it was very little. And the angel was surprised, like how? He's worshipping day and night. He was from Banu Israel. How come his deeds are so little? And Allah says to the angel, go sit with him for a bit and see his understanding, his level of understanding of religion. So he goes and he sits with him and he starts worshipping with him. And then, one day they're sitting and this person who's worshipping says to the angel, who is in human form, he doesn't recognize an angel, he says, you see all this grass growing on the side? It's such a shame my God doesn't have a cow who could at least eat this grass or be of some use to it, right? And he started talking in a manner where the angel realized that this person doesn't have any ma'rifah of Allah. It's like we would see today rain falling on the road, on the highway, and saying, what a waste. Allah should put this rain in the desert or on the grass. Why is it raining on the highway? And he was talking like that, right? I remember when we went for Ziyarah 5 years ago, we went to Sham as well. And we had this, lady with us in the group who went to Karbala first with us, and then we came to Damascus. And then we went to this place outside Damascus where they have the graves, right? The maqbara, where you have say the Kulthum and Sakina and the wives of the Prophet and so on. And the guide specifically told us, don't take your passports, don't take your money. But she carried her passports and she carried like $10,000 or something. And she went into, I think, one of the places, Bibi Fidda or somewhere. She prayed 2 rakats. When she came out, her purse was there, but the $10,000 were gone, or 10,000 pounds, I can't remember, and her passports. Now, while the guide was pulling his hair out and trying to contact the embassy for passports and all that, what was her lament? Her lament was, Imam Hussain didn't accept my ziyarat in Karbala, that's why I lost my money here. Right? This is what she understood of Imam Hussain. That because he didn't like my ziyarat, so he's punishing me by taking away my money. Right? For her own foolishness, when she was told not to take that. So, this is the kind of thing I'm saying. What we get from ziyarah is dependent on our ma'rifah. Who is this Imam? When we think petty thoughts, then our Imam also is petty, na'udhu billah, in our understanding. Number 5, read some history and importance of the places you will be visiting, and there are guidebooks everywhere. You could review the guidebooks on the plane as well. Number 6, sort out your dua and ziyarat books before you go. With dua and ziyarat, you want to recite where you need to decide what you want to recite where besides the obvious ones. For example, if you're going to plan to pray Salat Ja'far al-Tayyar in the Haram, find out how to pray it beforehand. If you're going to recite Ziyarat Jamia, go through its translation. Duas.org is a great place to find a lot of this information. Don't go with your du'as on your cell phone because you won't be allowed to take them into the Haram. So, you need to remember that. There are some special ziyarats, like there's a ziyarah for the day of Arba'een that inshallah we will recite as a group. Find out about Ziyaratul Wida. When you leave the haram of the Imams, all the Imams, there is a farewell ziyarat that you recite when you go for the last time. This you may end up having to do on your own if you don't go as a group. So find out how to read this, where it is. It is very important that you bid farewell as well to the Imam. And you read it with the right emotions, with the hope that you will one day return again to visit them. Number 7, carry a notebook with you and a pencil or pen all the time. On the bus, during the walk, in the haram. Write down interesting experiences, little miracles that you witness, even realizations you attain about life, about death, about God, about the Imam, about the place. Anything that you reflect on. For example, you might just realize that, would I normally go in front of a person who can read me like a book? If there was a person who could read all my thoughts and read me, like, would I go before him? In front of whom am I going? Or, you might see the rush and think that if the rush here defeats me and I find I can't get to my Imam, what will I do on the Day of Judgment when there will be thousands more? How will I get to my Imam? Right? Any interesting thoughts you come, write it down. Number 8, consider purchasing a kafan. It is wonderful if you can get a shroud from there. Death is inevitable. You get these kafan with Joshan al-Kabir, whatever written on it. If you can get it sooner rather than later, that is good, because then when you do the other ziyarats, when you go to Kadmain, you go to Samara, you go to Najaf, you can also do mas or touch this kafan on these shrines. If you buy it right before you depart, then you lose out on that opportunity. So if it's something you want to do, try and get it from Najaf or Karbala as soon as you get there. Number 9, take a small MP3 player with earphones. On this, I recommend you put your favorite nawhas or latmiyats, du'as, favorite clips of masa'ib from any lectures, or clips that inspire you, du'as, whatever you want. And then in your notebook, write down, specifics if you like which nawha, which latmiya you want to listen to before you start walking, when you're in front of the haram of Abul Fadl al-Abbas, when you are at Tilla Zainabiyya, when you are in the Mukhayyam where the tents are. The reason I'm saying this is because I think if you can prepare yourself with the right emotion before you do something, it can make a huge difference in how you experience that whole thing, right? Remember, you can't take your MP3 player into the haram, but you might be able to do so at other places, like when you're on the bus or outside the haram, okay? Remember also, it may not be safe for you to be listening to the MP3 while you're walking from Najaf to Karbala if you're walking alone. So you are going to a war-torn country, you are going to a place where you need to protect your children, your family, you need to be aware of your surrounding, of the crowds, you need to have your emergency contact numbers and all that. But this, I think, can be important as well at certain times, so try and take this with you. Number 10, when you're in Karbala, find some alone time. You're going to be in a group and constantly with people, and you're going to be taken everywhere. We're going for this ziyarat, we're going for this ziyarat. Try and find some alone time when you can converse with the Imam just one-on-one, when you can listen to some masa'ib or nawha or latmiya just on your own and weep on your own. You will understand the wisdom of this when you try it, inshallah. Try and watch some YouTube. Number 11, watch some YouTube clips before you leave home about Karbala, about the Najaf to Karbala walk, so you have some idea of what to expect and as well to inspire ourselves. I remember watching one clip recently, and it was in Arabic, and there is one place during the walk where one family they're serving the zawar, and what they did was they collected all their little children in their family and they made them stand in a square formation, and every child was holding a tray with dates, and they were giving out dates to the zawar as they're walking, and they are just shouting constantly, the children, labbaik ya Hussain, labbaik ya Hussain, labbaik ya Hussain. And the children right in the front, each one of them was holding a small play card, like just a cardboard box, a cardboard piece with something written on it with a marker. And what was beautiful and touching about this is the first child had a board that said, labbaik ya Hussain. The second one had a board that said, put this on the internet so the Nasibis can see it. Okay? The third one had a board that said, لو كان عندنا أصغر منهم لخدمناكم يا حسين. If we had children even younger than this, we would have made them serve you today, O Hussein. Right? So it's beautiful. Try and make this not just a physical mind thing, but an emotional, spiritual thing. As I said, go with the intention to, number 12, go with the intention to give, not to take. Ask yourself, what is it that you are going to do, how you are going to help. Do not go for this trip with the attitude that I've paid for this trip, so I need to be given this kind of service, or at a minimum I should be given this or looked after in this way or that way. Go with humility and the desire to serve, and with gratitude that every time you have helped a Zair, you have had an opportunity to be a servant of Imam al-Hussain. Even if it is lifting someone's bag or giving someone a glass of water, or picking something that fell down from someone's hands, or tying someone's shoelace, anything you get to help a Zair of Hussain, please go with the attitude to give and not to take. Number 13, take something that you can use to build spiritual and emotional value into it. This is something that I haven't shared before with anyone, but I'm going to share with you. I have, in my case, I have a black handkerchief. I have it with me here right now. This black handkerchief was actually stitched for me by my dear wife, and I have used this with me all the time. When I recite majlises, this is my handkerchief. Whenever I remember Imam Hussain and I cry, this is my handkerchief. Whenever I go for ziyarah, this is the one that I rub on the haram. Now this handkerchief has more value to me than $1 million, right? If you gave me the whole world's weight in gold, I will still not give you this handkerchief, because this is something that I want to be buried with. So find something yourself that you want to invest in and build spiritual value into it. And then keep that, treasure that every time you see it. It brings memories to you. It could be a tasbih, it could be a ring, it could be a handkerchief, it could be a cap, it could be a scarf, it could be anything. But something that you want to keep with you all the time. And that you want it to be of spiritual value, even if it is small in physical value. Number 14, ask yourself what you're going to change about yourself as a gift to the Imam. So you're going to take a lot from the Imam. How about giving something to the Imam? What is it that you're going to give him? I had an example I was going to give, but I'm going to just leave that out for the lack of time. But as I said, if you go with mind and body, you will only bring physical gifts back. If you go with heart and spirit, you will bring back spiritual gifts. I remember the last time we went to see one of the Marajas, and he said to us that if you go sit in a shop of a person selling perfume, even if you don't purchase any perfume, just you sit around there, when you go home, your family is going to say, I can smell fragrance from you. If you go sit in the company of cigarette smokers, even if you don't smoke, when you come home, your wife is going to ask you, were you smoking today? Right? Why? Because when you sit in a certain environment, you pick up the scents and fragrances from there. And what he was asking us is that when you go back from Karbala and people see you, will you give out any fragrance by which they will be able to recognize that you have gone to see Hussein? And that fragrance can be, you know, something like, for example, they notice that now when you pray your salat, you pray more diligently. Or there is a change in your akhlaq, in your character, or your attitude in how you volunteer at the mosque, or how you help people, or how you're courteous with your family, or your parents, and so on. Okay, so bring something there. The final thing I want to say, and then I just want to narrate a small incident and inshallah finish. The final tip is get emotional about Imam Hussain alayhi salam and fall in love with him. Do not rationalize Karbala and do not ask about everything, how could this be possible and how could that be possible and how is this possible and how is that possible. Because people ask this. I'm not saying don't ask, but that is not the place. Right? People have asked me, for example, you know, they say Hazrat Abbas, after his right arm was severed, he grabbed the mushk with his left arm, and then his left arm was severed, then he grabbed it with his teeth. Now if he had lost his left arm, how could he have grabbed it with his teeth? Right? Now if you want an explanation, I will give you an explanation. That the Arabs say, there's a place they show you where his arms were severed. It's outside the haram, the right arm and the left arm, and it's Kaffil Abbas, they call it Chaffil Abbas. Now Kaff is from the elbow here, which means it was not severed from here, it was severed from here. So if the mushk was on his left arm, even if it was severed, he could have still grabbed it with his teeth, even as it was falling down his. But when you rationalize things and understand like that, you have now lost the opportunity to understand Karbala with the heart. Now you're trying to understand it with the mind. Imam Hussain is a magnet of love, of kindness, of compassion. Allow yourself to be pulled in by him and drown yourself in the love of Hussein. We see, for example, on the night of Ashura, Imam Hussain repeatedly tried to get his companions to leave, but they refused to leave because they were completely attached to him. This is what you want to do. People will criticize crying for Imam Hussain, matam, and so on, but do not trivialize the emotions and feelings that you feel in Muharram, particularly in Ashura and in Karbala. It is not good enough to simply talk, discuss, and analyze the tragedy of Karbala. If we allow ourselves to feel Karbala, it influences us at a deeper and more spiritual level. It alters not just our minds, but our souls. And it already influences the ethos of the Shia Muslims, and in fact all Muslims who mark the tragedy of Karbala. So allow yourselves to fall in love with Imam Hussain. Do not be ashamed to express emotion on this trip. it will save you from the greatest of other dangers in your life, whether it is drug addiction, depression, suicide, faithlessness, you name it. The cure to all this is the love of Hussein. And I don't need to labor this point, because as soon as you step into Karbala, in fact, this is something I've witnessed, as soon as you step into Karbala, whether it is your first time or your 100th time, and your eyes fall on the golden dome of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, you will cry. I guarantee you, you will cry. Okay? The challenge is to keep that feeling of love throughout the trip. I want to end with a beautiful narration that I have narrated before. Some of you may not have heard it, some of you may have, but it is good to end on this note. This is an incident to show the azama and the greatness of the zawar of Hussein. What is the status of one who visits Hussein, the za'ir of Hussein? It is narrated by a very great scholar of ours called Shahidu Thalith, Qadi Nurullah Shustari. He has a book called Majalis al-Mu'mineen, which is in Urdu as well. He says that north of Iraq, in Mosul, which is largely non-Shia, there used to be a governor there who was a Nasibi, meaning he had a hatred for the Prophet's family and for the Shia. And his wife was the same as well, and they did not have any children. So the man and his wife, they made a vow to Allah, that if Allah blesses us with a child, as a thanksgiving, we will train him to kill the Zawar of Hussein. They had such hatred for the Shia and the Ahlul Bayt. They said, if Allah blesses us with a child, we will train this child to be a murderer of Shias, and particularly the Zawar of Hussein. Sure enough, Allah gave them a son. They named him Jamaluddin. Jamaluddin al-Musali al-Hilli, he came to be known. He died in the year 580 after Hijrah. Day and night, the mother trained this child to hate the Shias. And when he grew up into a fine young man, she told him that before I had a child, I had made this nadar, this vow, that you will kill the Shia and the Zawar of Hussein. So you must fulfill this nadar of mine now. And you know, he obviously had this deep hatred for the Shias. And so he went to this place where the Zawar of Hussein would come from Sham and Jabal Amil towards Karbala. And he stood on the road basically like a bandit, waiting for the Zawar to come so he could kill them or attack, and at least kill one to fulfill the nadar of his mother. He narrates himself, he says that as he sat there, there was no qafila coming, because they used to travel by camels in those days, and he kept waiting and waiting. And at one point he fell asleep, and a qafila passed by of Zawar. And they passed and they crossed a bridge and a river, and once they crossed the bridge, he woke up and he saw them leaving. So he was very disappointed that, you know, he had this opportunity to kill a Zair of Hussein and he missed it because he fell asleep. He went home disappointed, thinking he would have to come another day. When he slept that night, he had a dream. In his dream, he saw it was the day of judgment, and judgment was passed on him that because he is Nasibi, he is destined for the fire of hell. And the angels were told, take this man and throw him in the fire of hell. Now he is relating this himself, that he is seeing this in his dream. The angels take him to the hellfire, and they try and fling him into the... Now the fire of hell has its own consciousness. When someone is brought to the fire of hell, wal-iyadu billah, it comes out, it leaps forward, and it grabs the person and takes him into its embrace. So in his dream, he says, the fire of hell refuses to touch him. And the angels ask the fire of hell, they say, this man is a Nasibi, why do you not grab him and burn him? And the fire of hell say, we cannot touch him because on his body is the dust of the Zawar of Hussein. Now look at this. On his body is what? Ghubarun min zuwar al-Hussein. He says, in my dream, the angels pull me out and they wash me to remove all the dust from me. And they try throwing him in again, and again the fire of hell refuses. So They say, why do you reject him now? And he says, now we cannot touch him because that dust from the zawar of Hussain has entered his heart. There is the love of Hussain in his heart. So we cannot touch him. It is haram for us to touch a person on whom is not the dust of Hussain, the dust of the zawar of Hussain. He was so touched by this, he changed. When he woke up, he realized how wrong he was and his parents were. He became a muhib of Ahlul Bayt. He came to Karbala, and from there he went to Hilla, and he became a scholar, he became a poet, and he is known as Jamaluddin al-Musali al-Hilli. But when he went to Karbala to pay his respects to Imam Hussain, he composed some words of poetry that are well known. And I just want to read this and end. He says, إِذَا شِئْتَ النَّجَاةَ فَزُرْ حُسَيْنًا. If you want salvation, then go visit Hussain. لِكَيْ تَلْقَ الْإِلَهَ قَرِيرَ عَيْنًا. So that you may meet your Lord on the day of judgment with that which will delight your eyes. Why? فَإِنَّ النَّارَ لَيْسَ تَمَسُّ جِسْمًا عَلَيْهِ غُبَارُ زُوَارِ الْحُسَيْنَ. Because the fire of hell will never touch a body on which is the dust of the zawar of Hussain. And so this, with this I end, my dear brothers and sisters. It is a lot of information, but it is for us to reflect that if there is such esteem from the dust of the zawar of Hussain, are we deserving of being such a zawar? And inshallah, we strive to be so. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I'm not sure if the MC wants to say anything, or if I can just call Adil Bhai. Thank you.
Please recite a loud salawat for Khalil Bhai. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. So thank you so much for listening so patiently, and thanks for our online viewers as well from Toronto, Canada, US, the UK, and around the world who have joined us online. We have a hard stop for Maghrib prayers, so we have to cover two things. One is Adil Bhai, and also some logistical information for those going with Inayat Bhai. So I'll now request Adil to come forward. And depending on the time, we'll open up for Q&A. Otherwise, you can contact the group leaders for any Q&A.
So what's the time that I do
So
have
maybe 10, 15 minutes. Oh, they have a hard stop at Maghrib.
Yes,
so,
yes. Okay.
And then you can share your email address.
You're right. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. So, Khalil Jaffer, assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much. Okay, so I have been given about 15 minutes, and I'll finish it in 15 minutes, but it is going to be very hard for me to cover the information that I have in 15 minutes. So probably what we will do is, inshallah, we will try to organize a more detailed seminar in when we do arrive at the location. And what we will try to do then is also, inshallah, in the meantime, my telephone number and my email is available. So anybody who wants to contact me, has any particular questions, I'm at your service, inshallah. So you will, you're most welcome to call me or text me your number, and I will call you back. I'm usually in classes, so I may not be able to pick up your phone, but I will respond to you, inshallah, within a day. So I guess I will try to cover some of the basics, primarily around the walk. Just, mashallah, Khalil Bhai covered all the spiritual aspects. You know, it is a great honor for all of us. It's a great honor for me, inshallah. It's a great honor for all of us to be able to go for this ziyarat, inshallah. You know, there is a senior alim in Najaf who narrated a story to us that when on the day of Ashura, Imam Hussain alayhi salam said, Hal min nasir yansurna, and we often describe what happened on earth. There were also things that happened in the heaven, and one of the things that happened was that those mu'mineen who were in Al-Mizar at that point and had the love of Imam Hussain alayhi salam in their hearts, they said, Labbaika ya Hussain. And unfortunately, because we were not born at that time, we could not go down and help Imam Hussain alayhi salam on the day of Ashura in Karbala. The arwah that said Labbaika ya Hussain are the arwah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives an opportunity in this world to go and visit the grave of Imam Hussain alayhi salam and to visit Imam Hussain alayhi salam. So inshallah we are going there, and as Brother Khalil very eloquently put the various objectives of it, we are inshallah going there. You know, Imam Hussain alayhi salam had the thirst of water, which of course inshallah is quenched with Hawd-e Kawthar, but he also had the thirst in terms of those who will help him. And inshallah ta'ala, one of the purposes of our going in addition to asking for things for ourselves, both physical, spiritual and material, is to inshallah go and offer ourselves to our Imam and say that we are here inshallah 1400 years late because of qada qadar and because we were born here, but inshallah we come here and we offer ourselves to you, and we want to be in your Nasirin, and we want to be the helper of your son and your grandson, and we want to be amongst those who came to you and not only asked for things but also said, how can I help you? And how can I become part of your mission? How can you become the center of my life, and that everything that I do from this point onwards becomes centered at Imam Hussain alayhi salam. So that is inshallah our purpose. That is why we'll be going there. Now in terms of the walk itself, the walk is an experience. How many people have walked before? I see the sisters here who were walking with us last year. Okay, how many people are walking this year for the first time? Okay, mashallah. So inshallah this is going to be an amazingly life-changing experience for you, the entire ziyarat, but especially the walk. For me, I alhamdulillah had been on ziyarat many times, but until I did the walk, it was an experience that I cannot describe. Inshallah, when you go there, you will feel. I will start with a short story, and then we will go into the logistics of the walk itself. So in terms of the walk, this is a walk we will do inshallah from the Haram of Imam Ali alayhi salam all the way to the Haram of Mawla Abbas alayhi salam. Between Haram to Haram, it is about 100 kilometers in terms of walking. We will inshallah, as we walk, it will take between 2.5 days to 3 days in terms of the total time for the walk, depending on the pace we walk. In our case, in our group, and again, those who want to go sort of separately forward, faster, are most welcome to do so. In our case, we will be walking as a group. Last year, alhamdulillah, we started with 72 people, I believe, and all 72 were able to complete the walk because we kept the group together. So I don't have time right now, but we will go through some of the rules for the walk, and also those people who are in UK and in America right now will get a chance to inshallah meet with us, and the day before we will go through the exact rules in terms of how to make sure that we stay together as a group, what will be the stopovers, and how we will continue to move forward and complete that walk together inshallah. They will be in between about 2.5 to 3 days. There are a couple of tips that I wanted to cover. Now, the first thing is please pack a light bag. We've been doing this walk for a few times. Invariably, those that I've seen not being able to complete the walk are those that try to prepare for every eventuality and try to take a bag that is very heavy. Now, by very heavy, I mean that when you're walking 100 kilometers, even an extra pound will start feeling like 20 pounds on day 3. Right? So please do keep this in mind, that alhamdulillah, Imam Hussain alayhi salam will provide for everything. I'll give you a very small incident. It's an anecdotal thing. My daughter, alhamdulillah, is 10-year-old, I think was the first time she walked. Now she walked twice. Well, the first time she was walking, I told her that, do not worry about it. She was saying, Baba, I want to keep this, I want to keep this, I want to keep this. I said, don't worry about anything. Inshallah, Imam Hussain will give you anything you need. She's a kid, so she said, okay, Imam Hussain will give me anything. I said, yes. She said, well, how about some popcorns? So I said, Beta, this is not a joke. We are walking for Imam Hussain. She said, no, Baba, you said Imam Hussain will give me anything. So I want popcorn. So I said, okay, Sakina, this is not, this is serious. We are walking. I was trying to go all spiritual on her. 1.5 minutes later, there's a girl that comes in and she brings popcorns in the middle of Iraq in Karbala for Sakina, and she says, here's some popcorns for you. And Sakina is shocked. I am shocked. And I said, Sakina said, no, I don't want it, thank you. She said, no, this is from Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Right? So this is just one. I have hundreds of these stories now, having the opportunity to, mashallah, walk in a few times. That this is sort of the spirit you find in there, is that it is an amazing place. It is like the kingdom of Imam Zaman alayhi salam. Again, when my daughter walking was the first time, she saw somebody who was like begging people and stopping them, and she said, why is this person bothering people? It is not nice for this person to bother the Zawar of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. So I said, well, he's begging for people to eat the food that he has cooked. He's not asking for anything. So that was a concept she could not understand. So we stood there and we saw this person, and he was literally like holding like this and saying, please, for the sake of Allah, for the love of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, please, you have to eat the food that I've cooked. And then Brother Hasnan, who's sitting at the back, and was the first time we walked together, we had to eat the food so many times. Sometimes, like we ate it first time, we had one lunch, and then we had the second lunch, and the third time, I think it was Dr. Kara, myself, and Brother Hasnan Panju, we were walking by, and these Iraqi guys come in and says, would you like to have something? And I said, no, shukran. I think one of us said thank you in English. So he said, you're from far away. We said, from Canada. He said, you must eat our food. So we said, no, we already had lunch twice. He's like, no. And then he gets, I have some pictures of the Hasnan, that, he says, brought all the guys, we pretty much said, pick these guys up and sit them down and have them eat food. So we got picked up by 3 or 4, like really, mashallah, well-built Iraqis. We had to sit down and eat the lunch the third time. And that was the third time that we'd eaten lunch. And as we went on and on and on, and we reached the border of Karbala, there's this 70, and this happened last year, this 70-year-old man came over, with a white beard, and he said, what is your name and where are you from? And we were doing like, when we walk, inshallah, we do a majlis like every 3-4 hours. We will do like a short majlis, masaib, and try to get, in that mind frame. So when we reached there, this 75-year-old man or so comes to us and says, we were doing the majlis, and he started crying with us. We were crying, and he said, I would like you to have some tea. And we said, no, we do not want to have tea, thank you. He said, no, you must have tea. So the second time also we said, no, thank you so much, we've had so much tea now and we cannot take any more. So he says, the third time, please take some tea from me. So we said, no, please. We said very politely, we said, thank you so much, we are done now, we don't want to have any tea. This person started shouting and screaming, crying, slapping his face really, really hard and saying, Bibi Zahra is not happy with me. I have offered this tea 3 times to the Ziyarat of Imam Hussain and they have said no. So, we held him, we hugged him, and we told everybody, you must drink his tea. Said, you must drink his tea. But the love of Imam Hussain alayhi salam that you feel is unbelievable. So do not worry about taking every possible thing. I mean, at 2 o'clock, when Brother Hasnan, I and Dr. Kara reached a place, at 2 o'clock this person gets up and he's fighting with us in whispers in Arabic. And we do not speak Arabic, and we were trying to respond to him in English, but he was careful not to raise anyone, was very cold in that particular spot, and he was fighting with us to give us his blanket and saying that take it, no, you must take it. And for 10 minutes we continued to argue and finally decided to like, okay, you keep the pillow, we'll keep the blanket. Like we had to deal with him because he would not give up, right? So you see that this love Imam Hussain alayhi salam commands is unbelievable. Now, so please do not try to think, there will be 337 million meals served in these days for free, right? So 337 million meals served for free. There will be people distributing medicines, there will be people doing every possible thing that you can think of, they're already giving it to you. So the best thing that you can do is take a small bag, please. My personal suggestion is, in general, I prefer the roll-on bag much more than the backpack. For those of you who feel very confident about a backpack, it's still going to hurt. So you can take it if you're very, very light and you're a fit person. Otherwise, please do try to take one that actually you can roll. There's only a few hours initially where it's kind of a little bit muddy when we go through Wadi Salam. So in that case, if it's rainy or something, it might get a little bit hard. But in general, for the rest of the kilometers of walk, the place is kind of like a road. And it's much easier to take a roll-on bag, and people will share, they'll see you. It's much harder to take a bag like that. Now, the first time I went, I took a multi one that you can buy from Walmart or something like that, which actually allows you to take it either like this or as a backpack. So those bags also often cost about $30, $35. That's one thing. The other thing, again, just on the body portion of it, he covered the spirit. I'll focus on the body part of it. The footwear. Please don't buy a new shoe. That is one of the worst things you can do. Is just before the walk, we had some people who bought like a very expensive pair of sneakers or something like that to say that, okay, this is the best walking shoe, but they had never wore it before. And when they wore it, again, if it's not fit, if it's not loosened, if it's not comfortable, it is going to become very hard for you to complete the walk. So please try to, again, if you have something already that you're comfortable with and you know that this shoe would work, take that one rather than taking something that is a brand new type of thing. In terms of the logistics portion of it, we will have 2 flags. We'll explain the rules of how to stay between those flags. Nobody goes ahead of the first flag and nobody stays behind of the last flag. So we will need volunteer flag bearers, inshallah, that we will do. Last year we had Muzammil, mashallah, and he did not let anybody else carry, and finally we had to like snatch it away from him, and he said, no, I want to get buried with this flag. So inshallah, this year he's not going with us, but I'm hoping that inshallah some of you will be taking up that flag, inshallah, and carrying that for the group. A couple of other things I wanted to just point out is, as Brother Khalil pointed out, everybody there is a zayir. We had, my cousin walked with me last year, and we had this person, as soon as he sat down, this person started massaging his feet, and we had hardly walked for 1 hour. So he asked, he said, where are you coming from? He said, I'm from Najaf. Like my cousin said, we just started from Najaf. And then I asked him, where are you from? How long have you been walking? He says, I've been walking for 12 days from Basra. So we all really, we told our cousin, you have started walking from Najaf and you're still in Najaf. And he's walking from Basra and, he's massaging your feet. You should be massaging his feet. He's been walking for 11 days. So you will see there is a lot of spirit in the Iraqis. For the love of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, they will be extremely kind for you. Please, my request to you, and unfortunately we've had a couple of incidents. Generally, alhamdulillah, we've had a wonderful group. Sometimes we have someone who feels that because they're coming from Canada, I don't know, whatever, because they might have a certain degree or a certain amount of money or something, that they can mistreat these people who are essentially being so kind to you. And there is nothing more bothersome in personally my case, and I think in most of the people, to see someone, be rude to like another Ziyarat of Imam Hussain, or somebody who's trying to serve you, and by your attitude or by your thing or by pointing down at something that may not be as clean, you are sort of giving that arrogant thing to him. I mean, we have an incident of Imam Khomeini rahmatullah alayh, who's one of the greatest arifs of our time, that when he used to go for the Ziyarat of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, after the first day, what he did was polish the shoes of the other Zaireen that were going with him and ironed their clothes. That is what he did. Ayatollah Taqi Bahjat, when he died, he had this wasiyah that before you put the shroud on my coffin on my body, put the ghubar of the feet of the zawar of Bibi Masuma Qum onto my body. So they closed the haram, they had the vacuuming done, and on his body they put the ghubar and then put the coffin. So this is the value that you have for each other and for the people who are walking with you and the people who are serving you. So please keep that in mind. We want to, if we have any attitudes, we want to leave it here, inshallah, and leave it for good. But especially in there, please be very respectful and kind to those that are serving you. They are only doing this for the love of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. There are people in Iraq who would borrow money so that they can serve you. They would be sending money from Basra, from all around the place, just to help, to be of service to you. There will be people there who do not have anything, and they would be bringing cauliflower from their from their fasal to come and share those with you. There will be people who will be just giving tissue papers because those are all they can afford. There are people who sell their furniture in the house. I know of a person who sold furniture in his house because he wanted to serve the Ziyarat of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. So in his furniture, being a poor person, he sold his couches and his other thing, or whatever money he could get, he gave in to serve the Ziyarat of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. So please honor that spirit, inshallah. You are a servant of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, as those people are as well. Now, one of the things, again, in terms of logistics that we will do is that there are processes for if you get lost, how do you do? Do not worry, inshallah. We will explain to you that if you do get lost, how do you reach the hotel, and how do you make sure, do not panic, do not count on the cell phones. There are about 10 million people that would be walking with you from Najaf to Karbala. So if the cell phone towers there are not designed to take the load for 10 million, so all the processes we have are designed to be asynchronous in terms of that you do not need to actively call to connect. In addition to that, one of the things we will be doing is that we plan to leave at around, I would say, 4 o'clock. The final time would be decided based on the weather there. So if, for example, it is very extremely cold there, or it's rainy or something, then we may move the time a little bit forward or backward. Our particular group is leaving on early morning on the 20th. I feel that we will have probably close to 100 plus people, because there are a number of other groups from other caravans that are also joining us. So we will be probably between 100 to 200 people that would inshallah be walking. And again, it can be a great experience. You will end up meeting everybody from around the world. This is like what is supposed to happen in Mina in Hajj, and does not because it's under occupation. In this case, inshallah, because alhamdulillah, you'll be able to talk to so many people from so many parts of the world, find out about them. When you're walking, reach out to them. Many of them will speak some sort of English. They will be able to communicate through the language of love. I just want to narrate one more story that the person came up with, and we will finish here. And again, inshallah, we will have a more detailed seminar, which will take about an hour, probably for 45 minutes to an hour, as well as have a question and answer session probably in there. As I said, if you have any questions before that, my personal number is 289-259-6746. Once again, my cell phone number is 289-259-6746. It's also available from Inayat Bhai or Habib. You can take it from them. My email, muhammadakifm@yahoo.com. Again, you can take that as well. If you want to know something before you leave, you're welcome to do that. Otherwise, we will finalize it there. You know, one of the things that this hadith that, not hadith, an incident that one of the ulama there, senior alim, kind of shared with our group was that there was in the time of one of the caliphs who was Nasibi and hated Imam Hussain Islam. I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was either Mutashim Billah or Mutawakkil, who said that from now onwards nobody will be able to visit the, you know, first they said they will cut your hands and feet if you come, then we'll kill one of your family members, then they said nobody can visit. And for 3 years there was a drought and nobody could visit the haram, and in order to alleviate the drought he said, okay, anyone who pays 100 dinars would be able to go and visit the haram of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. So people then started coming again, and they started giving 100 dinars, which was a big amount at that time. So he was full of jealousy, and he asked his soldiers and everyone that I would like to sit here and see these people and what drives them. So he sat down, and then he saw a very old lady. She was 90 years old or more, and she would walk for a couple of minutes and then stop, and then walk for a couple of minutes and then stop, while everybody else was generally going on a mount. She did not have the money for the mount, so he said, pick her up and bring her to me. So the soldiers went in and picked her up and brought her to this caliph, who said that, what is happening? He said, you know, I've given you your 100 dinar, let me go to my Hussein now. It is my desire that before I die, I want to go to Hussein. So he says, why didn't you buy a mount? So she said, no, I do not have money for the mount, and I didn't want to save further because I'm very old. Before I died, I wanted to visit Hussein. So he said, you really, really want to visit Hussein? And she said, yes, I do. So he said, okay, tie her hands and her legs and throw her in Farat. So he said, I will not let you visit Hussein. So the soldiers tied her hand and her legs, and they threw her in the Farat water. When they threw her in the Farat water and she was drowning, she said to Imam Hussain Islam, there was my desire to come to your grave, but you know, it was not in my fate that I visit you before I die. But then there was someone who came in on a horse and helped her, and she was able to sit behind the horse, and he said, you know, come with me and I will take you to the grave of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And she said, who are you at this time taking this risk, coming to the water, saving me, going with me to the grave of Imam Hussain alayhi salam at the time when nobody is willing to help me? He said, you are going to visit my Mawla Imam Hussain alayhi salam. I am his slave Abbas alayhi salam. So I will go and I will pick you up, and I will make sure that the Ziyarah of Imam Hussain reaches the place where they're supposed to go. So inshallah, we are the Zawar of Imam Hussain salam. We will have the help of the Imams with us. If we go in the right spirit, if we go and offer ourselves to our Imams, inshallah this would be a life-changing experience for us. I wish to be of service to you. I'm your servant at this, in this trip inshallah, and I hope that I will get a chance to serve all of you as we walk together, and as we together say, Labbaika ya Hussain. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil.
Thank you so much, Adil. Dr. Liaquat Takim is here, and he's selling one of the books called Guide to Ziyarat, Selected Supplications. It's translated by Al-Sayyid Hussain Talib, translated by Dr. Liaquat Takim. Normally it's for $12, he's selling outside for $10. Okay? If I can have Brother Inayat Bhai please to come forward to do any quick logistics in terms of the people who are going with him, so then we can then stop at namaz time. Okay? If anybody has specific questions, they can reach out to Adil or Inayat Bhai, or their group leaders if they are traveling from the US or UK, because most of the questions can be answered by them. If there are any specific questions in terms of packing, etc. for the walk, then they can reach to Adil.
A couple of questions I've been getting. For people who are going with us on the 16th, we should be arriving there on the 18th. So we are kind of 38 to 40 people. So there's 40 people, which means we allowed 80 bags, right? And I'm for one, for sure. If you get allowance of 80 bags, make use of it, right? I don't want to say that, oh, I'm allowed 2 bags, but I'm only going to carry 1 bag. So that's why I asked you guys a question, how many bags you guys carrying? I need an exact answer, because we just acquired around 100 jackets the other day, brand new jackets, and we're going to pack them in the suitcase and take them with us, right? If I have to carry 100 bags, I'll carry 100 bags. It's okay for us, right? And I will try to see whatever you can do. So those people who are going in another flight, I advise you to take some extra things with you, and we will make arrangements for that stuff to come to Karbala with us. Right? So don't feel shy carrying anything with you. Now, some people will say, I have one bag, but you're not going to take 23 kilos anyways in that bag, because all you need is half a bag. That's your stuff. The other half, you can still put some clothing that you want to give it to poor, but make sure you give good clothing. Right? I'm trying to get brand new clothing and give it to people. Right? So make sure you put it in a small bag, in Dominion bag or Longo's bags, and then once we reach there, we will put it in a big black garbage bag and we'll give it to the poor. Regarding the money, you all know exactly what you have to do. Some people have paid me money, but I don't know who the name is. So I got so much money and I don't know what to do with it. So I will ask those people who have paid me to just send me an email regarding that I paid you, I paid you, I paid you, man. Otherwise, it's going to my holidays. Are there any questions here? You guys have any questions? Beautiful. These guys have covered the best. It's like Maulana asking any question. They understood the madlis. Then we can stop for Salat. Right? If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Send me an email, and I will generally answer everybody that email. Please don't call me after 9 o'clock. That's for sure. That's established already. All right? And don't call me on my cell phone, because I'm still learning how to use my cell phone. Thank you so much. Let's hear a loud salawat and we stop.